Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Healthy Me, Healthy You, Body, Mind, and Soul. Today, our topic centers around something that I think is important to all of us, certainly to me, and I'm excited for our guest who will be talking about what we eat affects our mental health. And so I'd like to welcome Ms. Carmelta Barnes, a nutritionist, and Dr. Cyprian Strawn, our resident expert on healthy lifestyles. Let us pray. Dear God, we thank you for your servant, St. John the Baptist. We thank you for his life and witness. Dear God, we thank you for those who today celebrate their anniversaries on this day. We think especially of our diocese, for whom St. John the Baptist is our patron saint. We pray, God, that as we reflect on his life, that we will use his life as an example of what it is to be the light of the world in this otherwise dark world. We ask you now, dear God, to be with us during this podcast. We thank you for those of us who are here. We thank you for those who are on their way. And we thank you for those who, for whatever reason, would like to be here but can't. We ask you to bless them all wherever they are. And we pray that this time spent here with you, that the conversation, dear God, will help to edify everyone who listens, and that we will all, having spent time in this space, leave better persons. To the honor and glory of your name, these things we ask in the name of Jesus the Christ. Amen. We'll now go to our first commercial break, and when we return, we will start our conversation with our two special guests. Healthy Me, Healthy You, Body, Mind, and Soul. This Wednesday and every Wednesday at St. Anne's Anglican Church, Fox Hill. Our program drops every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on YouTube. Our topic this week is what you eat affects your mental health. I'm sure you'd like to be a part of that conversation. See you on Wednesday.
Have you always dreamed of building a beautiful home or duplex on your own piece of property? Alwac Homes can make that dream a reality. If you have a vacant lot, all you need up front is a $2,500 deposit. Our team of home consultants will guide you through the process, helping you determine your qualifying amount and choose the perfect home design based on your budget. We'll work with lenders, and once financing is approved, construction begins. In just 4 to 6 months, you can move into your brand new home, custom built to your specifications, from impact windows to hard surface countertops. Call Alwac Homes today to begin your journey to home ownership. Alwac Homes, building dreams into reality.
And welcome back to Healthy Me, Healthy You, Body, Mind, and Soul. And now, our topic for the day.
Well, one of the significant health concerns in history was back in the 1920s, they recognized that certain populations that lived too far from the sea did not get enough sea breeze and seafood. And so mothers couldn't make babies properly. The army was searching for recruits for the army, and they went up to the area of Michigan. And Michigan was then known as the Goiter Belt. And it was because there were a number of people who had enlarged thyroids and thyroid disease. And they had an examination that they were given to recruits, and the 18 and 20-year-olds couldn't quite pass the exam. And so the physicians in the area decided to do further investigation. And what they found was that the mothers didn't have sufficient iodine for their thyroids to function. Without a functioning thyroid, you can't make a baby properly, and the baby can't grow to full development through the different stages to teenager and adult. So these women were either having recurrent miscarriages, or they were having children that were slower than normal or slow and deformed. And they started the process of adding iodine to the salt. Um, Iodine is what is needed by all thyroids. All the animals, all of God's creatures need iodine, and all thyroids need iodine to make this chemical that makes a baby. And so this was a historical event in the world back in the 1920s when they added iodine to the salt and transformed not just that region and the US, but around the world. They started the process of putting iodine in the salt for the people in China, the people in Central Africa, the people in Central Europe, all those communities that had populations that lived too far from the sea. They may have had individuals that lived close to the sea, but the persons living far from the sea were affected in this way. So without that initial step, that big step, a lot of people struggle to have healthy babies with healthy minds. And nowadays, though, the excess iodine affects the populations that have excess access to seafood and sea breeze. So that is a historical moment.
Wow, very interesting. I wasn't aware of that historical moment. But as Ms. Duncanson spoke about earlier, the topic of today, which is nutrition and the role it plays, or food, and the role that it plays in mental health. And as you just spoke about, Dr. Strawn, we all know that nutrition, mental health is influenced by many multiple factors. And, we have biology, we have stress, we have trauma, we have financial pressures, social relationships, and then we have nutrition, which is, and food, which is the topic of today. And so we also understand that food in itself is not a cure for mental illness, but it definitely influences how we cope. It influences how we respond to stress. It influences how we bounce back, whether or not we would be resilient or not. And also, when we think about the term resilience, it isn't just about the absence of struggle, because we're thinking about the fact, as I said earlier, we recover. Are you able to adapt? Are you able to cope? And then the interesting thing is that nutrition and food is the foundation of building that ability to be more resilient. So food plays a key role. It may not be the cure, but it certainly influences how we're able to cope in our mental capacity.
And so then the question, Ms. Barnes, is when you talk about food being the foundation, what kinds of food are you talking about?
The brain is, I'll start by answering your question by saying this. The brain is a high demand organ. And so it needs nutrition, right? And it needs the right kind of nutrition, the right kinds of food, the right kinds of nutrients. And so what are those nutrients? We're looking at, for example, carbohydrate, which is the main source, the fuel source for the brain, from healthy carbohydrate sources. I know carbohydrates have gotten a bad name. Like people will say carbs, oh, don't bother with the carbs. But that's the main source of energy for the brain, the healthy kinds of carbohydrates, that is. And then we have healthy fats. That's another nutrient that we're looking at. Particularly when we look at the omega-3 fatty acids, which forms the structure of the brain. So those are really critical nutrients right there. Essential fatty acids that we get from fatty fish, like sardines and mackerel and tuna and salmon, even our grouper. It's not a fatty fish, but it does have a decent level of omega-3 fatty acids in it as well as having vitamin D and B vitamins as well. And then we look at our snapper, which, again, not a fatty fish, but it has a decent level of B vitamins and also magnesium as well. So when we look at what we eat, we look at the whole picture, the whole scope. So we usually nutrition stress that you don't try not to focus on a single superfood, but look at the whole eating habits and patterns, and then go from there. So I mentioned carbohydrates and I mentioned healthy fats. Then we also have um, B vitamins. I said that earlier. We have vitamin D, we have magnesium, we have iron. Iron that help to carry oxygen to the brain. So that's really important. And many of these micronutrients that we call the vitamins, when the brain is highly sensitive also when there's a deficiency in these areas. And so what happens, they impact how we feel, the mood. It impacts how we respond to stress. It impacts our energy levels, our ability to think, our ability to be rational even, right? And so there's another very important nutrient that I think and that's adequate hydration. Having enough water is key also in the mental health story. And so adequate hydration is one of those that I feel it's more important than many people realizes, because the brain again is highly sensitive to decreased balances in fluid in the brain, highly sensitive. And even if you can be just minimally dehydrated, it impacts your mood. And sometimes you may feel um, irritable. Your mood may have dropped. Um, and you know what? You could just need a drink of water to boost that back up. I don't know if you've ever tried that. You may have a headache, and just a drink of water can help with that headache. Actually, can alleviate the headache. And so, proper hydration is really key. And also, the brain, most most the brain is one of, like I said, is a high demand organ, and so it requires most of the body's energy for the brain to function. And then we have water, which the brain is also highly sensitive to. And I'm stressing this intentionally because I think that we find water as, oh, it's just a thirst quencher. But the thing is that thirst is not the only symptom of dehydration. Our moods, our our ability to concentrate can also be a symptom of dehydration.
Okay, so when you talk about the carbohydrates, okay, give us some examples of good carbohydrates.
Okay, so carbohydrates, we have our fruits and our vegetables. Those are good carbohydrates. We have our whole grains. We have locally, we can look at our roots or ground provisions, as some people call it. So sweet potatoes and cassavas and plantains and pumpkin and whatnot. Those are what we call the healthy sources of carbohydrates. Um, so I mentioned our fruits and vegetables, and I would like to stress that I think we might be okay in the consumption of fruit area, but I really feel like as a nation we need to improve in our consumption of vegetables, which is another healthy source of carbohydrate. So those are our healthy sources.
So fish, any other kind of I guess, meats that are good for you?
So we're looking at the essential fatty acids, the omega 3s, and so when we look at those types of when we look at that particular nutrient, fish is one of those foods that's associated to that. But then we have other like nuts and seeds that provides omega 3 fatty acids as well. We have flax seeds and we have chia seeds, and those aren't naturally grown here, but but they are accessible. But it's not the only way that we can get our omega 3s. But fishes would be one of the main food sources um, in order for us to get our omega 3 fatty acids. And then, of course, we have fish oils that we could also consume. That would be a supplement. But I always say before we look at supplements, we really should look at our entire diet and try to adjust our food consumption and add the food that is going to strengthen, particularly our gut. When we look at the gut biome or the ecosystem of the gut, we want to ensure that supplements, it's good. It's like adding a seed to a garden, a few good seeds to a garden. But however, if we don't nurture the garden, if we don't cultivate and do the things that we need to do, then those few good seeds probably wouldn't be as effective as they could be.
Ms. Barnes touched on the B vitamins, and I'd like to go back to talk about development of the unborn child and the developing infant. And what we have found is that while the mother is pregnant, we wish to make sure that they have folic acid in their early pregnancy, which is one of the B vitamins
Yes.
that helps with the development of the brain of the unborn child. Um, the, the, the other vitamins that she discussed, there are several vitamins that, as she said, if you don't have sufficient of the B vitamins like B1 or B6, the child can be confused, the child can be irritable, and we sometimes take for granted that the patient, the person, the individual is getting enough of these vitamins. And we can't understand what it is that, why they are behaving in such a fashion. The mother must have certain things for the child's development. The mother must have sufficient magnesium for the vitamins to be absorbed into her body and to be transferred into the child's body. And again, this is something that we take for granted, but the child's only food before it's born, the infant, the fetus, is the mother's nutrients. And if the mother doesn't have sufficient nutrients, then the child starts off at a disadvantage that can continue for years and years to come, and may be difficult to even restore balance up until age 10, 11, 12 years old in case of some of the B vitamins. So if the mother doesn't have sufficient magnesium to begin with, this is the kind of child that we see these days with the hyperactivity disorder, the attention deficit disorders. So the nutrition of the mother to begin with, so that you're not struggling now to fix the child, the infant, and trying to make that person mentally as mentally healthy as possible. And one of the things we have to look at is, while we are trying to feed the mother this balance of healthy foods, like the healthy fats, because the brain is one big nerve, and all nerve cells have a fatty component attached to it. We also have to look at the food additives that are prominent now in our society. And so people are trying to eat healthy foods, but things like MSG are interfering with the absorption of the nutrients. And the more simplistic that you can, the more simple ways that you can prepare these foods without adding the fancy seasonings. There are several different names, and the MSG, the people who produce things with MSG have gotten kind of devious to the point where they have several different names for MSG, several different products, and they have invaded the Bahamian society. When I was a child, my mother used Accent, and that was, I think, every house in the Bahamas. But my mother only cooked once a week. Nowadays, we have parents and children that would have fast food for breakfast. Lunch would be some nuggets, and dinner would be fast food again. And it seems like all of the restaurants in the Bahamas are now, over the last 80 years, using some extra products with MSG. And what they have found is that the MSG is passing through the placenta into the brains of the unborn children. And the cases of autism, they feel, are attached to this particular nutrient interfering with the child's development. So yes, we have these healthy foods, but now the preparation of the food and is sometimes difficult. It's spreading the knowledge, spreading the information to people that these are the healthier ways of preparing your food. You can say it, but in actuality, there are people who find it difficult. They're based on their earnings, they don't have a stove, they don't have a fridge, and they have sufficient funds to go and buy food every day, but they don't accumulate sufficient funds that they can now cook and prepare their own food. And so it's almost imperative that we spread the message so that the country at large that is preparing food that you are selling to the public, that you take note that your foods are important to the entire nation in terms of development. Because when we talk about healthy minds, there seems to be a little too much anxiety and too much tension in the Bahamas. And people whose brains are not as developed as they should be, they can't communicate as well as they should. And when you can't communicate well, your next step is to be violent. Your next step is to be anxious and angry. And so people start, you're on the stoplight at 6:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and people are blowing at you. You're taking too long to move when the light changes. And so if we're looking to make our country healthier, it starts from what we are feeding the child before it's born, what we're feeding the adults, and how we're preparing these different foods. The vitamins and supplements, they in the past few years, we have felt that we have had to need to add more supplements because people just not getting the healthy foods. People, we want them to cook more. We want them to use more of the healthier things. But we have the reality of life in the Bahamas, where people have busy lives. People can't always prepare their own food. People have limitations in budget. And so if we can add some supplements, then we can fill the gap that's needed for the healthy foods. And if I may highlight one particular supplement, when we talk about thyroids, back 100 odd years ago, they introduced iodized salt to the nations. What they also knew back about 60, 70 years ago, that the mineral selenium was in poor supply in various regions. The mature countries have studied the selenium in the soils of their countries. So the US knows where their selenium is, county by county. They know how much selenium is in the soil in Dade County, Broward County. China knows where that selenium is. Great Britain, France, Germany, New Zealand, all of them are discussing this because when you get iodine, when you make thyroid hormone, they are waste products. And without sufficient selenium, then the thyroid will stop producing thyroid hormone to protect itself from its own waste products. The Bahamian soil is deficient in this mineral selenium. And so everybody reaches a point where they've consumed this amount of iodine, don't pick up the sufficient selenium, and they hit a wall where their thyroid is saying, I'm not going to produce any more thyroid hormone. And we have backup glands. God created us so that we'll survive. And so we end up running off of our backup glands at different stages in our lives. So the mineral selenium, they blame the acid rain, they blame just different continents with different soils. We have calcium, limestone soils here in the Bahamas. But without the selenium, then the thyroid will shut down. And without thyroid hormone, brain development does not continue. And also now this body changes how it absorbs nutrients. It's not what you eat, it's what you can absorb. And when your body goes into crisis mode because your thyroid isn't working, then you don't absorb all of the nutrients properly from your food. So our soil has been tested for selenium, just like the bigger countries. And that happened when the agricultural area, they were trying to grow cows on the open pasture in Andros. And the veterinarians came down from Alabama to help us to grow these cows on the open pasture. And they said, your pastures are beautiful. The diversity of the plants you have in your pastures, the cowpea, the shepherd needle, the elephant grass. But they said, this thing isn't in the soil, so it's not in the food. And they say your cows are gonna have growth defects, heart disease, afterbirth is gonna get detached prematurely. And I worked on the government farm before I went to medical school. And so there were salt blocks, there were salt licks that we had to put out for the cows. And they said that they knew of this because it was happening throughout the US, where they had particular farms that the cows were having the same issue. And like I say, all of the mature countries knew of these particular issues, and they stepped in to fix it for the farm animals, but nobody was discussing the impact on human lives, because humans would suffer the same kind of illnesses if there wasn't sufficient selenium.
Okay. Want me to? Sure. So you said you made an important point, Dr. Strawn, in terms of it's more than just what we eat, but are we absorbing the nutrients that we are consuming? And then to go back to nutrients, you know, God created food, and in the food, He placed in certain nutrients that will allow us to sustain our bodies and be in good health and well-being. And these nutrients, they all act as a team. So they work together. So we're talking about carbohydrates, we're talking about fat, we're talking about vitamins, proteins. I don't think I mentioned proteins earlier, but the amino acids from protein, they are the building blocks for what we call the mood hormone. We have it's really a neurotransmitter, but what we call the dopamine and the serotonin. These are things that helps to regulate our moods and regulate our sleep and so forth. So God created carbohydrates, proteins. Particularly, we're talking about having healthy minds. So there is the amino acids that help to build our healthy minds. Then there is our vitamins and our minerals. inclusive of water, and they all act as a team. But we cannot isolate our nutrients from food. So they're together, they work together, and God is in his wisdom allows the different kinds of food we eat to feed off of each other, for lack of a better word, so that we can then be able to absorb those nutrients. One, for example, vitamin C enables the absorption of iron, right? And there are some people that may be deficient or think um, that they're experiencing maybe a foggy mind, brain fog, or experiencing children can't concentrate in school, but they're eating lots of meat, right? But they can't concentrate in school and whatnot. Maybe they're not getting sufficient vitamin C. Maybe they're not eating. And when I say vitamin C, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to go and take a supplement. It means that, again, you look at your entire dietary pattern, how you're eating, and then you decide, well, not a child, but the parents and all of us, and then we can decide, you know what? Or maybe you have an advice from the physician or the nutritionist. Listen, it seems that vitamin C is lacking. So why don't we add some vitamin C to it? And Dr. Strawn, you said something earlier that reminded me of something I saw years ago on the Donahue show, where there was this little boy that was extremely difficult in school and with behavioral problems. And his parents would have moved him from one school to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And nobody went to psychologists, psychiatrists. Nobody could figure out what was wrong with this little boy. And then finally, they did some tests, and he was lacking in the B vitamins, right? So, so his parents then had to look at what he was eating. I think at this point he was in such a deficit that he would have probably needed the support of supplements as he ate foods that were rich in B12 and B6 and some of the others, the complex B vitamins. So that was very interesting. It was the first time I really took note in terms of the importance of nutrition as it relates to mental health, not just in diagnosis or not just in addressing trauma and stress, but for daily living, just being able to sit down and be in your right mind and be in a mood that allows you to make rational decisions. Food is the foundation for that. And God has created all those different nutrients, all of these that are listed up here. They are found in food. Now, I understand in today's world, it's a little harder in terms of we import. Another thing, we import over 95% of our food into this country. So we don't really have much control. I know people say, well, I have control over what I eat. Do you?
We don't know what soil the food was grown in.
Not only that, we don't select the food that comes into the country. The importer decides this is what's coming in, and then we buy.
And sometimes it has a label for export only.
Exactly. So I know that that's an issue, right? But I think it's actually another podcast when we start talking about agriculture and food imports and food security and what's available and what's accessible. That's a whole different story. But however, as it is now, we have to give people some sort of hope because there is hope. It isn't completely dismal. There is hope. And so the first thing I think as individuals we can do is start to assess what we're currently eating. You talked about ultra processed foods. The fact that those kinds of foods is the culprit really in terms of destroying our overall health. And not only our overall health, but those kinds of high fat, high sodium, high industrially produced fat types of foods actually affect our gut biome, which affects our brain because the gut and the brain communicates continuously.
So as we talk about the B vitamins in the food consumption, if we look at the Bahamian breakfast,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times the children are going to school without, they go with some money. And the first thing they do is they stop at the lady who's sitting outside the wall, and they pick up some of the wrong things. Or they may have gone to school on some noodles, very little nutrition. And when you add that packet, that seasoning packet, then you add that dose of MSG. But what we found is that the simplified foods interfere with the B vitamin absorption. And so within a half hour to an hour's time, now you have this child that's bouncing all over the place and can't sit still to pay attention, to learn, to study, to be a part of the class. So the more it's difficult with children. It always is difficult with children to give them the right things. Our common things for breakfast would be bread, would be grits, would be cereal, would be pancakes, and you're trying to get some protein and some fat in that meal to delay the absorption of the food to begin with. But you want, if you can get the yellow grits, which has the higher fiber than the white grits. So we're not being perfect in every way, but we're trying to be good.
Eating is about being perfect. Exactly.
Right. And so if you could train your children, let your children see that you are eating your sardine and grits. If you could have them eat your traditional native meals that our parents and grandparents grew up on, right? And when you prepare your sardine and grits, you have your onions cut up in it, and you have your sweet peppers, and you have your tomatoes. And so you're not using any canned things besides the actual mackerel or just tuna or sardines. The other canned products, if you start to go for the canned tomatoes, then you may get some extra salt or some extra other things that you didn't want with the meal. And then you use your simplest of seasonings and salt and black pepper and lime and pepper.
And herbs.
And the thyme and the onions. And if you can get that several days a week, you're not perfect, but you're good.
Yes. It's not about perfection. It's about consistency.
Right.
And making those healthy choices. Right.
And taking the time out to cook. You may not cook every day, but if you cook enough that 2-3 days you have food left over. And so we're not saying people are bad parents because they feed their children the brand name fast food restaurant foods. But we're asking you to take a little time for your child's development, for the country's development, that you take that little extra time to prepare some meals and to supervise what your children are getting, not just give them some money and send them out the door to go and purchase the whatever it is that they want. My son at the age of 2 or 3, for some reason, knew the McDonald's sign, and I knew that he couldn't read. But if we're passing a McDonald's, he wants McDonald's, and I say, What you know about McDonald's? Can you spell McDonald's? But those businesses know what colors to put on their signs. They know what commercials. They know what it is that pulls people in. And so on a daily basis, we have to be fighting. We have to be the warriors for our child's nutrition, because once this child starts off without the right building blocks, they struggle for years and years to finally get to be a proper, healthy, balanced citizen that can contribute in the way that we want them to contribute.
If you're just tuning in, you're listening and watching Healthy Me, Healthy You, Body, Mind, and Soul. And when we return on the side of this commercial break, we'll continue with our conversation. What we eat affects our mental health.
From day one, Classic was there. Now at graduation, we're hand in hand.
I'm a classic man. You can be me when you look this clean. I'm a classic man.
Even at my wedding day, who else could dress us? My wife and I.
Your knees get met by the street, elegant, old-fashioned man. Yeah, baby, I'm a classic man.
Classic formal wear, the place where you can find everything you need for that special occasion.
Your knees get met by the street, elegant, old-fashioned man. Yeah, baby, I'm a classic man.
Classic formal wear, setting the standard for excellence.
Now, we discussed the need for vitamin C. And one of the simple ways that we can tell is when people brush their teeth or floss, if their teeth are bleeding, their gums are bleeding when they brush their teeth, that's the sign that you're low in vitamin C. And that doesn't mean that you should reach for a different toothpaste or softer toothbrush. That vitamin C is needed to help absorb the iron, but the vitamin C cleans the white cheesy stuff out of the blood vessels of the heart and the brain, protecting us from heart attack and stroke.
But we have lots of local foods that are rich in vitamin C as well that we put on the side. Not disregarding adding supplements, but we have the guava, we have mangoes that are in season, we have juju, we have cherries, the local cherries, we have papaya, soursop. We have, and you know, I'm Dilly. I'm one to say, when it's in season, let's see if we can include it as part of our daily eating habits, because that's how God did. I truly believe we're supposed to be eating seasons. You know, I truly believe that the way that God designed it is that when mangoes are in season, we incorporate mangoes in different aspects of our meals. It doesn't mean that you eat the mango all the time, because one thing in this country I see we don't do enough of is processing. And I mean at home now, processing the mango, freezing the mango, using the mango in your salad. You cut it up, you chop it up, you put it in your salad.
Put in your meat.
You put it in your, it's just so many different ways that we can use and process the foods that we locally grown that will also boost the level of nutrients that we're getting. So again, I think when we look at vitamin C and all, well, vitamin D, which is important for the brain, just go walk on the beach. We have a gift from God, sand, sun, and sea. And so, you know, just go take a walk at a well, you don't want to go the heat of the day at 12 noon, and it's a little hot right now, but you can go around sundown or as early in the morning as the sun rises. It's an opportune time to go out and absorb some vitamin D. And vitamin D is one of those nutrients, again, that impacts the brain, but also impacts the way we absorb lots of other nutrients as well.
Vitamin D is one of our cancer blockers as well. Without vitamin D, you don't have a healthy prostate. Without vitamin D, you don't have healthy blood sugars. So this vitamin D is one of the most important vitamins or minerals or nutrients that we know of. The discussion about getting enough water right now is summertime, and a lot of people don't recognize that they are dehydrated.
They don't.
So
Exactly
before
right.
I came here, I was at the office, and a patient stopped me, a 75, 80-year-old, and she says, I'm feeling a little tired, I'm feeling a little weak. And I reached out and I touched her neck.
And it stuck.
It's like wrinkled foil. I touched her neck, and when I pinched it, it stayed there. It didn't bounce back. And I said, as early as it is in the morning, ma'am, you haven't consumed sufficient water. And now you're confused and tired and strained. And it's a lot of elderly people not even going outside who are dehydrated, and they get confused and they get lazy and sluggish, and They end up with urine infections. They end up,
And they're not thirsty. They don't
they
recognize,
are
as you
not
said
thirsty.
earlier. My mom is who's like 88, does not. I literally have to bring the water to her,
My
open
mother,
the
I had the
water,
same battle with my
and
mother.
this is when I know she's thirsty. This is what she does when she's thirsty. She says, my dad, thank God, who's also still alive, will be 90 in September, God willing. She would say to him, did you drink any water? And she would ask it consistently. And one day I was there and I said, I get it. She's thirsty. So I didn't say anything. Because if you say, are you thirsty? She will say, no,
No.
I'm not. So instead, I got the water and I gave it to her and I said, drink some. So whenever she asks, are you thirsty? I just go get water and give it to her. Every time I see her, I'm trying to get water into her.
You have to fight. You have to
It's
fight to
it's a
add the
fight
water.
because she's dehydrated. She doesn't recognize that she's thirsty, and it just compounds the issue of dementia.
Yeah.
It compounds the issue of depression, and it makes it's a cycle. It's like you feel worse now because you're thirsty, but you don't know you're thirsty, and it just keeps going and going and going. So that brain nutrition connection is a serious thing. It really is. I have a question for you guys. Have you ever noticed how you feel mentally after a day of healthy food choices? You're consuming balanced meals. You have good hydration. You've got good physical activity and good sleep compared to a day of skipping meals, fast foods, lots of sugary beverages, stress and no sleep, high stress and no sleep. Have you ever noticed the difference in how you feel? Have you? Am I just
Yes.
asking that question? Yeah? You've noticed. So again, that's the brain nutrition connection. Really, really key. They go hand in hand. You know, we can't, when we think of mental health, we tend to think of trauma and diagnosis, but mental health is every single day. It's a daily thing, as I said earlier. So just think about that. When you're feeling low, when you're feeling a little antsy, a little irritable, did I drink any water today? Or have I been drinking all sugary beverages today? Because sugar dehydrates too.
It
So
does.
in this hot summer days, and you talked about children, which is very, very key in terms of starting early, the foundation of good health in children. But if children are thirsty and they consistently drink a sweetened beverage, then they're really pulling all the electrolytes from their body. They are actually, it pulls away, and they continue, and they are thirsty, so they go for the sweet again. They're thirsty, they go for the sweet again. But if they had water, it would have hydrated them, and they wouldn't have to go as frequently. So that's something important to remember as well.
And in terms of preparation, in advanced preparation, I'm not one that really likes water. And so what I would make, I'd make me some switcher. And so I'm controlling the amount of sweetness in it. And for my mother, when she gets in this dehydration point, I say, no Gatorade or anything like that. Make her some switcher, put a little bit of salt in it, because when you sweat, there's salt that is actually lost. And you
Electrolyte,
put
yeah.
some sweet, and when you use lime, there are little minerals in the actual lime itself.
And vitamin C.
And vitamin C. And so this would be her rehydration liquid. And what I find is that if we're not paying attention, it will take 2 to 3 days to rehydrate my mother properly. If I go over and check her consistently from the first day that they said, oh, she's sounding a little confused, she must have had a stroke. I say, no, it's not a stroke. Her lips were dry. You don't put on lip balm when your lips are dry. Your body is saying,
Drink water.
drink some water. No Vaseline. I don't want to hear that conversation around my mother. Give us some water, please.
That's a
And
good one.
so rehydration, and I have to check myself frequently. Have I had enough water? And I have to force myself. I may put something in the water to force me to drink more water.
Mm-hmm.
So I may put my vitamin C tablets in my water to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that I'm drinking more water.
Mm-hmm.
But I sometimes, before I came here, I looked in the mirror and I did the same pinch thing, and my skin did not bounce back as quickly as it should. And that's 10 o'clock in the morning, right? So
The water,
this
yes.
summer
It's a scorcher this summer.
yeah.
But you can, like you said, you can, for those people that are managing diabetes and whatnot. So in terms of remaining hydrated, then they would want to, they could put lime for flavor or lemon without a sweetener. You can try that. You can infuse fruits into your water as well. You can try that. And so that's another means of, and then keep your water near you. Keep it near you. So you're more likely to reach for the water than for that um, ice cold sugary beverage, right? I feel like we've been kind of the marketing, the food marketing company have
Brainwashed.
brainwashed us so well in thinking thirst, something sweet. I'm thirsty, something sweet. And the sweetener is actually not quenching your thirst. It's only satisfying your flavor, your appetite, but not really quenching your thirst.
As a single parent or as a grandparent whose responsibility for the next 2 months or 2.5 months to take care of these children every day, right? What can you give them in terms of a daily, I guess, diet plan, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks to keep these children hydrated and to ensure that they're getting the right nutrients into their body as they go about? Well, hopefully they're outside getting vitamin D and not on PlayStation all day, right? So, how can we help the parents and grandparents to guide them through summer?
Dr. Strong would have mentioned it earlier in terms of we don't really have to get away from some of the traditional things that we eat at breakfast. The tuna and the grits. He had a mention in terms of, okay, well, why don't we replace the white grits with the yellow grits, which has a little bit more nutritious. And also, when you're preparing the breakfast for the children, adding the onions on, adding other herbs and whatnot to the meal, ensuring that there's a protein in the morning, ensuring that there's a carbohydrate in the morning, and that's the grits. So to give you an example, that's the grits. The protein would be the tuna, and even a boiled egg, right? And ensuring that there is and it doesn't have to be fruit, it could be a vegetable, but in our culture, it tends to be a fruit. But we have so many fruits in season now. It could be one of those that you pick from the yard or a neighbor brought to you, right? It doesn't have to be the blueberry. It doesn't have to be the strawberry. And it doesn't have to be the blackberry, right? We just want to ensure that they're getting that balance. This is what we call balance. When people talk all the time, have balanced meals. You want to balance the nutrients so that you have steady energy during the day, right? For them as well, so that they're not outside fighting because they're irritable because they didn't get the right food, right? And then ensuring that inside of the house, as best as possible, that the environment, the food that is accessible and available to them is the default choice. So it's not fair to a child to have the chips in the house and expect them not to want to choose the chips, right? So as much as possible, limit those things and allow that most of the things that are in the house are the whole foods, less highly processed foods, like the cookies and the donuts and the sweets chips. And the chips and those cream pie things, those type of things. They would choose them because we give them to them, and now it's their default choice. And so to correct that, slowly having less of those things, and if you can do it cold turkey, do it cold turkey. um, but just having what's healthy for them around the house, and making sure they have adequate water as they play outside. When they come inside, there's water ready for them, and it does not have to be sweetened, preferably unsweetened water. Even if you make lemonade or infuse lemon in it. Um, and then for dinner, it's the same. Lunch and dinner, it's the same thing. You're looking at balanced meals. You're looking at providing some sort of a protein for them. You're looking at whether it be rice and peas. Peas and rice is actually a healthy option. It's how we prepare it that becomes the issue. Because peas is a source of iron, the pigeon peas, right? And then the rice, well, it depends on the rice that you use. It could be a good source of fiber and B vitamins, but it depends on the source that you use. So, but peas and rice is actually a healthy dish, you know. But when we start to put the oil and the fat and the different things in it, that changes the composition of the nutrients a little bit, adding some unhealthy nutrients in there. But again, just making sure that they are receiving the proper nutrients through the food that they eat and having it available in the house, versus making it somebody else's responsibility. So having a conducive environment within the household itself.
And I echo her message. Accessibility is probably the biggest thing. So if it's there in the house, if the healthy things are around you, if there are no sodas, then you have to drink water. If there's no juice, you have to drink water.
Exactly.
If there are no chips, then you have to eat that apple or that tangerine or that orange or that
Exactly. Or
piece
the
of
mango on the
pawpaw
tree.
or that mango that's right there. So if there are no choices and they're hungry, they're going to eat them.
Exactly.
And if they see you eating them, so as a child growing up, my father, I watched him eating mangoes regularly, and whatever was in season, sapodilly, canap,
Yes.
juju, scarlet plum, hog plum,
Yes.
these things, that was just a regular. You just
It was
knew
a
that
regular
was
for
gonna
me.
be.
Yes, exactly. Sugar cane.
But
Those things were right outside, right in the yard.
in the yard, thank you
In
very
the
much.
yard.
You just go
Hog
in the
plums.
yard and you're picking stuff off of your
Guava.
own tree, not having to go to the shop.
And so that's why I say it's another conversation in terms of sensitizing the public, and starting to put some vegetation in the yard again. You know, think about planting, go back to the guavas, go back to the
Sugar apple,
sugar apples and
the
hog
native cherry,
plums,
the hog plum.
native cherries, which is a high source of vitamin C, more so than the orange.
The thing is, it's not too late to start. You can't say, well,
Yeah, it's
boy,
not
I
too
wish I had done that 7, 10, 15
Yeah,
years
it's
ago.
not too late.
Whenever you start, it's good enough.
Mhm.
Each new day gives you the opportunity. And like Ms. Barnes said, we had a cherry tree in the yard, we had a scarlet plum, we had a hog plum, we have gooseberry. Veronica knows what trees are in our yard. Guava, sugar apple, soursop, avocado, sugar cane, all of those, sea grape,
Nice.
all of them are there in the yard. And you just walk outside and pick a handful.
And that's the most nutritious. People just, you know, sometimes I feel like it's looked down on, but that's the best way that we can get those nutrients that God has given us and those various different ones we mentioned earlier from the food we eat.
And you actually absorb the nutrients, the vitamins and minerals
Better.
than taking a supplement.
Yes.
Because the way God has packaged it, the absorption of the vitamin or mineral comes better in this package that God created.
It works as a team.
I remember when my father first came and put that dead-looking stick in the yard, I said, boy, he's losing his mind. But months later, we had hog plum tree and hog plums and a scarlet plum tree from the same plant. Just get a stick, a branch from the tree and put it in the yard.
Wow.
And because it's native to the Bahamas, they just grow naturally.
Right.
Once it's
Natural habitat. Wow. And I appreciated what you said. It's never too late. You can start right now with the hog plums and the soursop. You don't have to pay $15 for a soursop. That's extremely expensive. So how is people going to eat healthy? And on top of that, it has this medicinal properties now that is being promoted. It always had it. But now that it's been science has taken that out. It's now like, ooh, like one soursop is $15, but you can have it in your tree and you can share it. The barter system that we used to have many years ago. We can share. I bring you some of my soursop, you give me some of your dilly. Maybe I didn't have a dilly tree, and that's how it is. I hope we can get back to that one day. That would be wonderful.
Just encouragement is planting the seeds,
Mm-hmm.
so to say, because I've been wanting a scarlet plum and hog plum tree in my yard for a little while,
Mm-hmm.
and finally somebody brought me a branch. And the interesting thing is, if you plant from seed, it takes 5, 6, 7 years for that seed to grow into
Oh,
a tree
that's
that produces.
interesting.
But when you plant that scarlet plum stick, I had 3 scarlet plum on my stick that I planted 6, 7 months, maybe 8 months ago,
That's
because it's a mature
interesting.
tree already. It has that instinct. Yeah.
Oh.
So the stick gives you fruit quicker.
So the one real quickly, what you said that. So around COVID time in 2020, everybody was doing little gardening in the back. Everybody was doing that. So somebody had given me a soursop, and I took the seeds and I made several little seedlings that came out of the soursop. Now my yard is fairly new, and I'm still trying to put soil. It was rocky and whatnot, but I gave a seedling to somebody from work. I gave her a seedling. In 2024, she bought me a soursop. I have a picture of it this big from her seedling. I don't have a soursop tree in my yard yet. So when I saw her bring that, I was like, girl, I have to come get some soil from you. What is that you have in your yard? It was delicious and sweet. So it didn't take long. My point is, it didn't take very long for that soursop tree, which I thought would have taken much longer, to produce a huge, big size soursops. So we can start now. We can start today.
When you go to the store, you buy this fruit, the next fruit, you throw those seeds in your yard. We have
Yes,
pawpaw trees that spring up,
they do very easily.
and we don't even know who threw the first seed in the yard. But every time it's pawpaw season, there's a pawpaw tree, and the little tomatoes. Somebody threw a seed in the yard, and so these little tomatoes spring up. Um, we have a tamarind tree. Somebody gave tamarind. You throw it out the window. My soil isn't good in my yard, so there's a lot of plants in pots.
Mm-hmm.
I got uh, lime trees in pots, avocado trees. So most of the soil is in the pot. And when they break through the pot and find a little bit of soil in the ground, then they're happy.
Mm.
So that's how I counteracted the bunch of rock in my yard.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good to know. I could try that.
So we got guavas now, and I was about to give the tree away, and my wife wanted to fight. She said, "You could give away those other guava trees, not the one with the guavas on it." In closing, the first thing I ever grew as a child was a peas tree. I didn't really like peas, but it
Pigeon
was easy
peas?
to grow. Pigeon
Pigeon
pea.
peas.
And the pigeon peas are such that you could just throw them out the window and they will find their way, and they will grow, and they actually strengthen the soil. So the first crop that the farmers are supposed to be growing on their barren land is pigeon peas, that adds the extra nitrogen to the soil.
That's true, yes.
And if I suggest, sometimes people say, boy, I'm struggling with finances and this and the next. I say, if you throw some pigeon peas in your yard, after a couple of months, you have peas to sell,
True.
because people will buy your pigeon peas. If they can't grow them themselves, they will buy them, fresh or dry.
So, again, in closing, I just want to say, as it relates to our topic, food and its role in mental health, nutrition and mental health is it's greatly connected. It's a continuous. The brain affects the nutrition, and how you feel also affects nutrition. So it's like a bi-directional type of relationship going on there. And I think that we are to think broader about mental health, and think about how the food that we are choosing and are consuming on a daily basis impacts our mental health on a daily basis. When we're feeling irritable, when we're feeling low in mood, or we're feeling anxious, it could be the types of foods that we are consuming on a daily basis, or it could be that we're just simply thirsty and we need to drink some water. And so I just want to close by saying, remember the brain nutrition connection, and remember that mental health is beyond diagnosis. It's how we live our everyday life.
Mental health is not just about people who have thoughts, who hear things and see things. It's not just, well, I'm not crazy, so my mental health is good. The mood is a part of your mental health. Your energy to get out and go to work and to perform your best at work is a part of your mental health. And I think they say that a significant part of the population has a mood disorder that impacts their functioning at work. They want to postpone, or they want to delay that doing this particular job or that particular thing on their job, and it's all part of their mental health. That's what's causing the delay. That's what's causing the poor performance. And it starts with the simplest of things, observing what nutrients, what seasonings you have in your cupboard, how often you are eating out, and trying to send a message to your friends and family. Listen, I have changed my way of eating. I've changed my seasonings. I'm not eating from you. If you are using those seasonings, I may come over and hang out with you a little bit, but I'm not going to eat your food. It's impacting me. My heart rate is going to speed up. My neck is going to get stiff. My thoughts are going to start to race. Help me on this journey. Let's help each other on this journey.
Mm-hmm.
Let's avoid these seasonings. Onion powder, garlic powder, the simple things, but no combined seasoning. It blocks the pressure medicine from working. It blocks the sugar medicine from working. It blocks the schizophrenic, migraine, seizure medicine from working. So let's fight to cut out these seasonings as a group. Let us say, as relatives and family and friends,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to cover each other. We're going to help each other.